Hey guys, thanks for joining me in today's video. I'm kind of excited to bring to you a very new product from VTOMAN. This is their FlashSpeed 1500. Now I've done several videos about VTOMAN jump power stations, their jump series. And they've been very good power stations with one nearly fatal flaw, kind of depending on how you want to use it. But the big thing that I had issue, I guess I had with that series of power stations was that they were pretty much all limited to 200 watts of solar input. And in terms of AC charging, they weren't particularly fast in that regard either. They were okay, but in a lot of cases, especially with their 1200 watt hour and up power stations, it was very difficult to fully charge that power station in a single day of full sun. Now they have actually resolved that concern for me, apparently. So we're going to find out if that's the case. But the 1500, I'll have to get it out of the box here in a minute. But it is a 1500 watt AC inverter. It is a 1548, I want to say, 1548 watt hour capacity battery. It's lithium iron phosphate. And the solar input on this, and I'll give you more detailed specs here once I've had a chance to really use this thing, but it takes up to 400 watts of solar instead of 200. Now 400 watts of solar should allow you to top this thing off in well under a full day of sun. So that is a very welcome change, and I'm kind of interested to see what else is new on this power station. So without any further ado, let me go ahead and get this thing out of the box. All right, 1500 user guide. I think their manuals are getting better as well. So this looks like a pretty good manual. Doesn't look like there's a cable pouch, but there is a box. Let's see what we get. One AC cable, pretty heavy duty. So I'm guessing no charge brick. This looks like a little Type C to Type C, a Type C to Type A, so a couple of USB cables, and it looks like a standard 12 volt to maybe DC 5521 adapter cable. So I think that's all that's in there. All right, so first impressions. Definitely more ruggedized construction than the Jump series. I think that's a very welcome change. There is a nice widely diffused LED on the back. This looks like a trap door. Oh, okay, so this is kind of cool. You can store all your cables in a little cable pouch. So this is why they don't give you a pouch. You don't need one apparently. You just stack them in there. So that's cool. I thought maybe this was wireless charging, but it doesn't look like it has wireless charging. So that's fine. That's a nice to have, not a need to have. All right, so let me just see how this powers up. All right, so just the individual port stack power buttons. There's no master power switch. Like all of the other Jump series, they do have a battery expansion port, and they do have a jumper cable option for jumping your car. So that does not come standard in the box, but you can buy it separately. And you got 3 AC ports there. They say that they are 110 volt, maximum output of 1500 watts. All right, so there's probably enough damage that I can do right now. So let me get this thing and go put it through the paces, and then I will report back in a few weeks, or by your clock, maybe 2 seconds. All right, we are back. Now I've been working with this FlashSpeed 1500 for about 3 weeks now, and I think I've got a pretty good handle on what it's all about. Let's quickly cover the key specs on this thing, and then we'll see how it holds up in testing to find out if it actually performs as good in reality as it does on paper. So as I've already mentioned, it does have a pure sine wave AC inverter that is rated for a continuous output of 1500 watts, and that's a peak surge of 3000 watts. And the battery chemistry on this, like all of VTOMAN's models in the Jump series, is lithium iron phosphate, which is very good, and accordingly it's rated to maintain at least 80% of its original capacity even after 3000 full charge and discharge cycles. That's about a 10-year usable service life, 10 years plus. And the rated battery capacity on this, by the way, is 1548 watt hours, and we'll find out what its usable capacity is here in a minute. Now for outputs, it's got 3 110 volt AC outputs, and as I pointed out earlier, there are 4 total USB-A ports. 3 of them are 12 watt, one of them is an 18 watt quick charge 3.0. And then there are 2 USB-C ports, and both of those are PD100 ports, which is really great for charging laptops and tablets and things like that support high-speed Type-C power delivery charging. And then finally, you've got the typical 12-volt, 10-amp car socket and a couple of DC 5521 accessory ports. Now, on the input side, you've got an integrated 1500-watt AC fast charging capability that lets you charge the thing in just under an hour. So no extra charge brick to keep track of like there was on the Jump series. And all you need is that power cable, which, as you saw, nicely stores in this top little compartment of this unit. And I find that I really like that, actually. I never have to go hunting for the cables, which I invariably end up doing with other power stations. Now, there's also a DC 5521 input port, and that is used for the included car charging adapter. You can also use it with a 100-watt solar panel if you wanted to, but that's definitely handy for the car charger on long road trips. So keep in mind that this thing will take upwards of 12 to 14 hours to fully charge if you're going to charge it just by your car. So there is that. And then it's finally got an Anderson connector for solar charging, and the input range on that is 30 to 60 volts max at a 15 amp current max, up to 400 watts total. And as I said previously, that is a very welcome 100% increase on the Jump Series 200 watt maximum. Oh, and as I mentioned in passing earlier as well, it does also have a battery expansion port, allowing you to add an optional battery expansion module that effectively doubles the capacity of this to a combined total of 3,096 watt hours. Okay, I think that about covers the important tech specs on the FlashSpeed 1500. Let's see how it actually performed during our testing. All right, the FlashSpeed 1500 is rated for 1,548 watt hours, but that's the rated capacity. Let's find out what the actual usable capacity is through the DC ports. So let me go ahead and enable the DC outputs here. See, we're at 100%. So let's check back when it's done, and we will find out how much usable capacity in watt hours we actually get out of this FlashSpeed 1500. All right, just quickly point something out here. We are at, let's see, 1%. The LED is in low power mode, so it's kind of hard to see, but 1% state of charge, so it's almost done. And if we look down here at the tester, we can see we're at 11.3 volts still, even with only 1% left on the power station. So that tells me we do have a regulated 12 volt port, so that's very good. All right, we'll check back in a minute when this thing wraps up. All right, looks like our DC capacity test is done, so let's see how we did. All right, looks like a total of 1,213, we'll call it 0.5 watt hours. Now that's out of a rated 1,548 watt hours. So that gives us a kind of a solid 80% of rated capacity, which is a fairly average number. All right, we've started AC charging. You can see we're charging at 1,550 watts in this case, and that should top us off in just about an hour. So we're going to confirm that. But since the fans have come on, let's just see how loud those are. So you can see this is not a super quiet power station, just over 70 decibels. It's kind of a white noise sound with a little bit of a whir. I wouldn't say that it's particularly annoying, especially if it's continuous. I would imagine that the fans will probably stay on the entire time it's charging. So I'll have to report back and let you know if that was the case or not. All right, it's been exactly 1 hour. You can see we're right at 99%. So still charging, might take another couple minutes to top it off. The fan is still running, but yeah, 1 hour AC fast charging is definitely a thing. All right, got the unit fully charged. Let me turn on the AC inverter. We're back to 100%. And we are going to do a AC usable capacity discharge test on this unit. Right around a little over 500 watts. So that's about a 0.33 C discharge rate, so roughly a third of its 1500 watt continuous AC inverter capacity. And let's see, we are getting 112 volts under load. Okay, yeah, that's not bad. Okay, so we will let this thing run, and we will count up all the watt hours that we were able to get until it's completely depleted, and we'll get a number. So we'll check back when it's done. All right, looks like our AC usable capacity discharge test is complete. Well, let's see how we did. 1,295 watt hours. So out of a rated 1,548 watt hours, that would be approximately 84%, which is a pretty solid upper average number. All right, so I've got the unit fully depleted. If you can see, we try to turn something on here, we'll get 0% capacity. And I think an important feature for a power station is the ability to have it connected to solar overnight, in that when the sun comes up, and begins hitting the solar panels, the power station should automatically begin charging without any interaction from me. I shouldn't have to unplug and replug the solar once it has power. It should just take care of that. Not all power stations do that. Most do, but not all of them do. So I want to make sure that this one does. So I've got 400 watts connected, which is two 200-watt panels outside in series. And I've got those connected here coming in through my MC4 connection to this Anderson connection here on the solar input. So we're going to find out when the sun comes up in the morning, and there may not be a lot of sun because I think we're supposed to get some cloudy and chance, like a 58% chance of rain. I don't know. We should get enough to start charging, but we're going to find out. So we'll check back in the morning and see if we've got any kind of a charge coming in. All right, it is about 10 a.m. I don't quite yet have full sun on the solar panels, but as you can see, we're already at 17%, so it's already charged about, well, 17% in the first, I don't know, hour or so of actual daylight, maybe 2 hours of daylight. So I think we're onto a really good charge rate here. This is slowly starting to creep up as sun is coming in to the solar panels. So we should get very close to upper 300s here in just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and let this fully top off, but I have full expectation that this is going to be able to fully charge in well under a full day of sun. And I didn't have to interact with the unit at all this morning. It just started charging, which is exactly what you want. All right, it's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Been cloudy most of the morning, but we finally are now getting some pretty full sun on that 400 watt panel setup, and you can see we're getting well north of 300 watts, which is quite acceptable. And it looks like we're going to top this thing off easily in well under a day. So good stuff. Okay, let's do some load testing on the AC inverter for this FlashSpeed 1500. But as you can see, I've got the AC inverter turned on and it is outputting 112 volts without any load. So this thing is rated to maintain a output of 1500 watts continuous with a 3000 watt peak. But it does have something called constant power, which is supposed to allow you to run this well past 1500 watts, where it will lower the voltage to try to keep that load from being too much over 1500 watts. So you could put, say, an 1800 watt load on this, and it would lower the voltage to bring the power back down without tripping the overload protection, so that you can continue to run those devices. Now, with other power stations that I've reviewed with this kind of a feature, this is not something you want to use with complex electronics like TVs, computers, refrigerators, for example. It's kind of hard on those devices, but for lights, fans, heaters, things like that, simple resistive loads, this is perfectly fine. But if you're going to be running like a TV or a computer, stuff like that on here, you do not want to push this thing past 1500 watts because it will drop the voltage, and then those devices may suffer a little bit as a result and could wear those devices prematurely. So you don't want to do that. But let's find out what this thing can handle, and we'll kind of watch the voltage drop as we ramp up the load. All right, so this is taking us up to 1263, 1250, something like that. Let's go ahead and push this past 1500. And this is kicking us up to just about 1800. Let's just see if this cuts us off at all or if it's just going to ramp back down. My guess is it's going to slowly ramp back down. And we're going to keep our eyes on this voltage number. You see the voltage is coming down, and this is slowly dropping. I'm not sure how far it's going to go. It seems to have leveled off. Yeah, so let's let this run a little while. Well, we've already had this run in a couple of minutes, but I'm going to go ahead and start a timer. See if we can run this for a full 15 minutes in this sort of overloaded state. All right. Yeah. Clearly, we ran, actually, since I started this about 2 minutes late, 17 minutes solid. We can run this thing all the way down, and we're at 1654 watts. And it's only rated for 1500 watts continuous. So, definitely got some overhead on this 1500 watt AC inverter. So, very good stuff. The AC inverter load test definitely passes. All right, now this test should be a complete gimme. Since this unit supposedly has UPS capability, it pretty much has to have pass-through charging, which means I should be able to charge it via the grid, which I'm doing right now. And I'm putting in 1549 watts. And I do have the AC inverter already on, so let's just make sure I can output my little space heater here. And yeah, I am definitely outputting on that space heater. What's interesting, we saw that watts drop down a little bit. So I think it's giving me a watt number. That's what's actually going into the battery. All right, so as you can see, we're back to 1549. Let me add about 600 watts to that in terms of a load that we're going to draw. Yeah, so this actually drops down. So it's passing through AC power from the grid to power the 600 watt or 550 watts or whatever load that I'm pulling off of this right here. And if we pull more from this little thing, we'll probably see this drop down a little further. Yeah. So we're literally passing through power, and then the remainder, it's putting in 900 watts to the battery. So definitely does pass through charging. That's not really a surprise, since we know that this thing is supposed to have UPS capabilities as well. All right, now we're going to do the UPS mode test. So this is my sacrificial laptop. Got the battery removed. It will shut down if there is any interruption in power, more than about 50 milliseconds or so. And so I've got grid power going in here. As we saw previously, we are effectively passing through grid power to power the laptop. So the question is, will it switch back over to battery power off the AC inverter directly immediately after I pull the grid power to simulate a power outage without interrupting the laptop? So let's find out if the laptop will stay running or not. All right, 3, 2, 1. Okay, no blips on the laptop. You heard the fan go off, grid power went away, and we made the switch immediately. So, UPS mode confirmed. All right, real quick, just to tell you, I did do an AC inverter no load draw on this. So I just turned the AC inverter on and let it run, and it has an auto shut off apparently after 8 hours. So after 8 hours, if it does not detect a load, it will shut the AC inverter off and go into standby mode. However, it does also use about 2% of its battery capacity per hour. So if you let this run until the 8-hour shutoff, you will lose about 16%. Like if you start at 100%, you're going to drop down to 84% state of charge just by accidentally leaving the AC inverter on. And by the way, I did test this on my 24-hour DC fridge test. Passed with flying colors, even on a very low power draw, very, very intermittent power draw, because I have a very high set point on that refrigerator, and it's in a cool environment, and it's fully stocked. So compressor doesn't run very often, and yet this thing did not shut down on us even after that 8-hour timeout. It allowed us to keep running that DC fridge. So even though you can't disable the timeout, doesn't seem to be a problem for a DC fridge. Just for fun, let's find out if we can actually start up an 8,000 BTU air conditioner with the VTOMAN FlashSpeed 1500. So I've got it plugged in. I've got the AC inverter turned on. Let's go ahead and power this thing on and see what happens. Oh, definitely handled the compressor spike. No problem. We are pulling a little over 800 watts. Definitely can handle running an air conditioner. This is, like I said, an 8,000 BTU air conditioner. All right, so to wrap up, the new FlashSpeed power stations from VTOMAN do seem to bring some extremely welcome updates to their product line. So certainly that 400 watt solar input capacity increase on this 1500 watt version here finally does resolve the pain of that 200 watt limitation on the Jump series, as I previously mentioned. And but do understand that if you happen to add the expansion battery to this unit, as far as I'm aware, there's still no ability to charge that expansion battery separate or independent of the main unit, which means that even with this much improved 400 watt solar input max on the main unit, that would basically get you to somewhere around 65 or 70% state of charge with that combined 3 kilowatt hour capacity. So do keep that in mind if solar charging is something that you plan to rely on exclusively for days at a time. And of course, if you're primarily relying on AC recharging, well, then there's no concerns at all with that, since that 1500 watts of AC fast charging will top you off in just about an hour on the main unit itself, or a couple of hours if you combine it with the expansion battery. And by the way, since I get a lot of comments asking about it, I did test already to see if you can simultaneously charge this via solar and DC. And not surprisingly, primarily because of that 1500 watt AC fast charging capability, you can't do both. You can do one or the other, but not both at the same time. And I'm not really, sure why you'd ever really need to do that anyway, since the AC charging on this thing is already so fast. So as far as notable features that this unit does not have, well, there are a couple things that are probably worth mentioning. First, there's no mobile app control still on these power stations. And for some people, that's a con, and for others, it might actually be a pro. For me personally, I do like the option if it's available, especially if it allows you to do things like vary the charge rate, for example, or adjust the no-load timeouts, or maybe control whether or not the power boost voltage throttling feature is active or not. But these functions are actually hard-coded into the FlashSpeed 1500, and while I do think those are implemented in an appropriate and practical way, having direct control over those functions with a mobile app to configure them is the way that you would like is something that would be nice. Now that said, I do also think it's worth noting that the build quality on this power station is definitely a step up or two as compared to the Jump series. It just feels more rugged, and as I said earlier, I very much do like this cable storage thing that's integrated on the top. I wish more brands would actually start doing that, and who knows, maybe this will start a trend in that direction. Okay, by now you're probably maybe yelling at your screen or thinking and really loud in your head, like, for the love of God, just tell us what the price is already. So the list price on the FlashSpeed 1500 is a little on the high side at $16.99. But before you go pull the ripcord on this unit over that fairly lofty number, you might want to also factor in that there's currently a massive $840 coupon on Amazon US, and that brings the price down to an impressively low $860 US, or about 55 cents a watt hour. Now, I do always try to remind people that pricing can and does change from time to time, and I don't know how long that coupon will remain active, but as long as it is available, I think it's an excellent price on this very much improved 1500 watt hour power station from VTOMAN. And don't forget, like all the other power stations from VTOMAN, you can get add on a $30 jumper cable option, and then you've always got that as an emergency jump start solution. Okay, I think that's a wrap for this particular power station. I do hope you found at least some of this helpful in the video. If you did, please consider giving me a thumbs up and click on that like button for me. I'd really appreciate that. And if you're not already a subscriber, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button as well. I've got a bunch of cool projects still in that video queue, and maybe a couple more DIY things in the fairly near future. So maybe you'll find those, or maybe some of the other videos I have on my channel, helpful in some way. I do offer my sincere thanks for stopping by and watching this video, and I do hope you'll consider joining me for the next one. Until then, have fun out there.